Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into Traxxas. Huge name in RC cars, right?
Absolutely massive.
You sent over a whole bunch of material, forum discussions, reviews, even legal filings.
Yeah, quite a mix.
So our goal here is to sort of unpack all that, get past the marketing buzz, and figure out what's really going on with Traxxas.
Exactly, because what you see in these sources is this interesting split. They're super popular, especially, for people just starting out.
Right, easy to get into.
But then within the more, let's say, experienced side of the RC community, there's quite a bit of criticism, a real divide.
Okay, so why? What's driving that? We're going to look at, product quality claims. Are the electronics flaky?
Mm-hmm.
Their whole proprietary parts thing, is that smart or just annoying? And kind of surprisingly, their legal history. Lots of lawsuits.
Yeah, that's a big part of the story.
Okay, so let's start with the products themselves. Reliability. What are people saying?
Well, a common theme in the sources, especially from more demanding users, is about the electronics. The ESCs, the speed controllers, particularly in the faster models like 4S and Uppiri Revos, X-Maxes, reports of them failing. And servos, too, the steering motors, often seen as slow or weak or just prone to breaking, even in standard ready-to-run kits. There's this perception of them being, well, maybe not top-tier components.
Okay. And what about this ID battery system I read about? Sounds convenient for beginners.
It is, yeah. It simplifies charging, takes out some guesswork, but it uses a special connector.
So you have to use their batteries.
Pretty much. Or their chargers. It creates this sort of walled garden, like, Apple sometimes does. Limits your choices for batteries, maybe costs you more.
Right. And they actually sued another company, Venom Power, for saying their plugs were Traxxas ID compatible.
They did. Cited safety concerns about bypassing their system and patent infringement on the connector design itself.
So they're really committed to keeping people within that ecosystem.
It seems so. It highlights that trade-off. Ease for newcomers versus flexibility and cost for others. It's definitely a point of contention.
Okay, moving on to durability. Traxxas has this rep for being bash-friendly, right? Tough trucks.
Generally, yes. They're known for being able to take a beating. But the sources also point out quite a bit of plastic use in critical areas on some models.
Like where?
Things like suspension arms, caster blocks on the 2WD platform, even some drivetrain parts on smaller models like the TRX-4M. Also using bushings instead of bearings in some spots.
Which wear out faster.
Potentially, yeah. And some concerns about shock quality, again, particularly on entry-level or smaller-scale stuff. Even older platforms maybe haven't aged perfectly durability-wise.
And the self-righting feature on the big trucks, some people think that actually stresses the vehicle. Or is just a way to sell more parts.
That's more speculative based on the community chatter, but it shows people are looking critically at design choices versus, potential long-term wear or part sales strategy.
And all this leads to the price question. Are they overpriced? You see comparisons to brands like Arma or Red Cat.
Yeah, that comes up a lot. People point to maybe a basic brushed model, like the Bandit seeming expensive for what it is, or the cost of those proprietary batteries and accessories.
So is the price justified?
Well, the argument for Traxxas often involves the marketing, the huge parts availability almost everywhere, and that beginner friendliness. For some, especially newcomers who want convenience and support, maybe it is.
But for others?
For others looking purely at specs or who like to tinker and upgrade with third-party parts, the value proposition compared to competitors is definitely a sticking point.
Okay, so mixed bag on products. What happens when something does go wrong? Customer service. Warranty.
Also seems inconsistent based on the reports. You find stories of people getting great help, quick replacements. But you also see a lot of complaints. Emails going unanswered for weeks, support staff seeming unhelpful or rude, live chats getting cut off. There were even mentions of BBB complaints.
And the warranty itself, it's pretty short on electronics, right? 30 days.
Yeah, just 30 days for electronics. And that causes a lot of frustration, especially if something fails, like day 35 with very little use. People expect things to last longer than the warranty period.
I could see how that would be annoying, especially given those reliability concerns we talked about.
Exactly. It feels like a mismatch between the short warranty window and reasonable user expectations, especially if getting support after that window is difficult.
Okay, now for the really juicy part, the legal stuff. Traxxas has this reputation For being sue happy.
That reputation definitely comes through in the sources.
Yeah.
Numerous lawsuits against competitors, HPI, ARMA, Venom, like we mentioned, McLean Racing, Red Cat, Losi, Horizon Hobby. The list is pretty long.
Wow. What are they suing over typically?
Often patent infringement, things like a specific design for a waterproof receiver box or a type of cantilever suspension. Trademark disputes, too, like the Max name clash with Macklin.
And there are these accusations of patent trolling, like patenting common ideas just to sue people.
That accusation is definitely out there. Patenting things some feel are industry standards, like general waterproofing methods or suspension types, and then enforcing those patents aggressively.
And this venue shopping thing, filing lawsuits in East Texas.
Yeah, the Eastern District of Texas used to be known as a plaintiff-friendly venue for patent cases. Filing there repeatedly raised eyebrows and accusations of trying to gain a legal advantage.
And the timing, sometimes suing companies when they were already struggling.
That's another criticism found in the sources, the timing coinciding with competitors' financial difficulties, which again fuels debate about fair competition versus aggressive tactics.
It wasn't just competitors either, right? They went after smaller aftermarket companies.
Yeah, sending cease and desist letters demanding they stop using the Traxxas name just to indicate compatibility, even reportedly going after the internet providers hosting those small web shops.
That seems really aggressive, trying to control the whole market.
It paints a picture of a company fiercely protecting its brand and ecosystem, potentially at the expense of limiting consumer choice and aftermarket innovation.
So understandably, all this creates some strong feelings in the RC community.
Oh, definitely. Online forums and discussions show recurring negative themes. The lawsuits, the proprietary parts, the perceived poor value, customer service issues, stifling competition.
But isn't there a counter-argument? The Traxxas, despite all this, actually helped grow the hobby, made it easier for people to get started.
Absolutely. That's the other side of the coin. They really pioneered the ready-to-run concept, made RC cars much more accessible, and brought a lot of new people into the hobby. You can't deny their impact there.
It's a clash, then, between this corporate behavior and maybe the more traditional hobbyist values of openness and modification.
Sort of, yeah. A clash between a very successful business strategy and the expectations of a passionate community that values things like fair competition and the ability to tinker.
And there were even reports about them trying to control the narrative. Heavy moderation on their own forums, maybe pressuring other sites.
Well, those allegations exist in the source material, yes. If true, it would certainly feed into the negative sentiment, suggesting they aren't open to criticism.
Okay. So, wrapping this up, Traxxas is undeniably a dominant force. Huge success.
No question.
But that success is built on practices and products that clearly generate a lot of debate, a lot of strong opinions within the RC world itself.
Exactly. You've got the accessibility and the part support on one side, and then the proprietary nature, the legal tactics, the reliability questions on the other. It's complex.
So you now have a much clearer view of why this brand is both so popular and so controversial. It's not just simple brand loyalty or hate.
Right. It's rooted in these specific business choices, product decisions, and their impact on different segments of the hobbyist community.
All right, so here's a final thought for you to chew on. Looking at Traxxas, their dominance, and all these criticisms, what does it tell us about that balance? Between driving innovation, controlling a market, and keeping your core passionate fans happy. Can a company get that big and still have a, let's say, collaborative relationship with its enthusiasts?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Something to definitely think about.
Indeed. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.